guys? My name's Emmy Johnson. I'm a freshman at State Fair Community College, and I'm from Martinsburg, Missouri. My major is criminal justice. Um, has been since the beginning. I thought about switching it, but after reading this book, I'm glad I didn't. So, my book is titled Death's Acre by Dr. Bill Bass. So basically, this book re-encounters Dr. Bill Bass's life and kind of the journey he goes on to become an anthropologist. In becoming an anthropologist, Bass solves numerous crimes and really expands the field of forensics and anthropology. It kind of all ties together with Bass creating the Body Farm. The Body Farm is based in Knoxville, Tennessee, and it is dedicated to researching corpses so that way scientists can better tell things like cause of death, time of death, just from things like bones. Like the whole body doesn't even have to be there. So I chose this book because I really like crime, like true crime and forensics and stuff like that. And so, being a criminal justice major, it just really jumped out at me. And I thought, well, if I have to read a book, might as well read this one. So, some keywords: forensics is basically like the scientific methods and techniques used to investigate a crime, and then an anthropologist is someone who studies the human skeleton. So Dr. Bass, he studied the human skeleton to solve crimes, basically, and determine cause of death and things like that. So, summary of the book is Dr. Bass, he starts going to school, to college, to become a clergyman, and he takes an anthropology class as an elective. And he really liked the class, and so that next summer he started going to these like Indian reservations along the Missouri River, and they were excavating all of these predicted grave sites to dig up Indian bones and determine like cause of death and find ancient artifacts and stuff like that. So this gave Bass a lot of hands-on experience, and he continued going out to these Indian reservations for 14 summers. And during this time, he graduated with a master's and a doctorate's degree in anthropology, and he became a professor at Kansas University. Eventually, he switches schools and he starts teaching anthropology at the University of Tennessee. And here he is called to investigate a lot of crimes and look at a lot of different skeletons and stuff like that. So, thanks to all of Bass's research, scientists now determine cause of death and time of death a lot easier and more accurately using different methods and techniques that Bass has highlighted in various researches of his. The Body Farm was created in 1980, and by 1980, well, it was created in the fall of 1980, and then by 1981, Bass and some colleagues and students, they had their first body on hand. And so on the Body Farm, they will take these bodies and bury them in various different ways, to where they're like buried in trunks of cars, encased in cement, wrapped in a tarp, like anything you can think of, just so they can dig them up periodically, test them, and research them, and basically just gain a whole new understanding for how the body decomposes in various situations, and it really just gave everyone a new outlook on how the human body really works. So I thought this book was really good, but there were a couple parts that really stuck out to me. I've already mentioned how Bass went on these Indian reservations for 14 years, and I just think like that is a favorite part of mine because it just shows Bass's determination, because he would not stop going on these until he felt like satisfied that he had enough. And in his 14 summers, he ended up excavating about 4,000 Indian graves, and they could just learn so much more about the culture and really the cause of death. So something really big that Bass discovered is that their survival rate from like 0 to 5, like the toddler stage, was really low. But if they made it past 5 years old, they were likely to live until they were 12. But then by the time they were 13, the guys, they were going out and fighting in the wars and hunting for animals, and the women were having babies. So there tended to be a lot more catastrophes after they turned 13. Another one that stuck out to me was chapter 7. This is when the body farm is created. Basically, so in chapter 6, Bass, he wrongfully determines the time of death of this person by 113 years. They had found a kernel from like World War I, his body, and Bass put his time of death at like less than a year. And so this like really upset Bass, but it motivated him at the same time. And so he spends like all of chapter 7 coming up with his plan, and he gets the dean's approval from his college, and they are given this space of land where they start the body farm. And they started the body farm in 1980. The main topic of this really is just like how the field of forensics and anthropology affect everything else in our world. Like everything about forensics and anthropology all are related back to biology. So this field really shows the importance of DNA and how unique each person's body is. Like just from the skull, you can tell if they're a male or woman, how old they were, their race. You need a few more pieces of the body to determine height, but like you can determine so much just from the skull of a human. And another like interesting thing that really stood out to me with the main topic is it just shows how the earth is really all-knowing of everything. Like there, you can get samples of the ground and determine like how long that bone has been there and things like that. And going back to the Indian graves, that was something that really stuck out, is those grave sites had not been touched for years. They didn't even know if they were in the right spot. Like they knew the general area, but it was hit or miss digging up these graves. And so I think it is just like really astounding how the earth is just so like smart, I guess you would say, and just how everything correlates together and just goes back to how each person is so unique in their DNA and their genes and all kinds of things. And so some key things that I learned is like determination is the biggest factor in anyone's success. Bass could have given up after he determined that cause of death, or the time of death, so wrongly, but instead he used that like failure as motivation, and he created something that has forever changed like the field of forensics. And another thing is, this kind of goes like with that, is don't give up because you're disappointed. Just use that to keep going and all of that. So Bass really is just such a motivational person if you look at his life. I mean, he's 93 now and is still so invested in the body farm, even if he can't do as much stuff as he used to or as much stuff as he would like to. My overall impression of this is that this book was so interesting and mind-opening. Like, I learned stuff that I didn't even know about crime, and that's something that I've always paid attention to. Like, I had no idea what anthropology was until I read this book. I would really recommend this book if you like true crime and just hearing like murder mysteries, I guess, because each chapter kind of re-encounters a different crime Bass helped solve with his various findings. Thank you.